Hi, this is Neeraj Jaswal and welcome to this episode. In this episode, you are going to learn about the slider UI component. The slider controls allows the user to select a numerical value from a predetermined range by dragging the mouse. There is a similar scroll bar control which is used for scrolling rather than selecting numerical values, although they have almost the same properties. So let's get started. I'll show you how to create a new slider. To add a slider, you can right click on the parent panel and then just select slider. The another way is you can create from the create menu and add as a slider. So I'll just add it from here. I'll place it here. Now let's go ahead and see what are the components which had been added. As you can see, there's a child which has been added. This is a background. There's a fill area. Basically this covers the part which is filled by changing the values. This is basically the knob, the handle of the slider. So when you go to the component section or the inspector, you see the slider script component has been added. In this, the first thing which is the property which is there is interactable. You can either check it or uncheck it. It's basically if you check it, but then the slider is enabled. If you uncheck it, then the slider is disabled. You can't basically change the value. So this is how it is. It is disabled and it looks grayish. The transition is something which is common for most of the UI component. So you can just leave it as color tint. Navigation is also basically shared with other UI components. Normally you just keep it automatic. Now the fill rectangle is basically the fill area here. This rect transforms fill rect is basically populated here. The handle rect is again for the knob, this one, and then the direction. The direction is basically sets whether the how it is going to be the slider is going to be aligned and whether it will start from left to right or right to left. For example, when I select left to right, the knob is at the left when the value is 0 and the maximum value then it will be on the right. For right to left, the knob goes to the right when the value is 0. Then bottom to top is basically a vertical slider. At that moment, the bottom is 0 and the top is the maximum value. And top to bottom, the top is basically the minimum value or the 0 and the bottom is the max value. Now you can set the value, minimum value and maximum value here. Sometimes you can even go to negative. Sometimes it is required. Some places that like when you want to have like -10 to +10 some feedback or something like that, you can use it like negative values also. Max value is basically the highest number of the whole number which is allowed. Sometimes you can also use the floats. So 1.1, 1.2, something like that. Whole numbers are basically whether you want to use it as a whole number or you want some float numbers. So for example, here if I choose, like I can choose 0 to 10. So then you can basically, the max value will be 10. See, so this is the value basically where you can set. Now this particular UI component, the event system has a action event called the on value changed. So whenever a value changes, you can have your own action handler. So I'll show you exactly how to do it. I have done it for this particular your slider. I'll just make this, I'll show it with this one. Here I have set the game object here which will be having the script. which controls the action handler. Now it takes two parameters, the image and the slider. The image is basically this particular image and the slider is the slider component, this one, and I have set it to the on value changed tab, and here basically you can add it by plus minus. So this was added, and I just want to show you the script which is there. The script which is being used is slider value change. Here in this script I have imported the Unity UI package. I have kept the image and slider as parent class field, and once you set it, these values are going to be used here. This is basically the function which is called when the on value change function is called. So here when the on value change event is fired, this function gets called up, and here I have added some piece of code where basically changing the slider will change the X position of the image. Now to add this, basically I just dragged and dropped the game object here, and then I selected slider value handle slide value change function. This way I am able to basically change the X position of this image here. I'm accessing this X value here, slider dot value. This gives me the float X, float value. I am then changing the positions here. I am taking the direct transform of the image and then changing it using this set inset and size from parentage method, and then I am passing these values, and then the X position of the image changes. So this is how basically you can use the slider. There are a lot of other options available which you can use it for. So that's all from my side in this episode. Keep rocking and happy coding.